recording. First thing I'm going to do, let's try this first one. This is the easiest one, the banner JPEG. Drag it into Photoshop. And if you follow along with the handout that I gave you, let's see, I'm going to move these out of the way so we can see it. The first thing you need to do is to just get your artwork, whatever you're doing, on one layer. Whenever I send work to a client, what I usually do is just do a screenshot of it. I don't send them any high resolution PDF or anything, just a simple screenshot, and usually that's all that I need. In this case, we're going to use our marquee selection tools and simply click and highlight it. And when we do cut and then paste, remember it's going to create its own little layer that it's been cut and paste from. All cool? Nothing spectacular about that. You've already done that once it's created. Now we need to transform it and to place it onto the correct area. By the way, if you can't see the area that you're working on, you may need to lower the opacity in whatever layer that you have. So I'm going to drop it down just a bit so I can see both the foreground and the background. All cool? To do the transformation, some of these you've seen before. I'll just go over them again. Under Edit, Transform. These are the most common transformations that we generally do. You know how to scale something, you know how to rotate it. I very rarely use skew. This is one of those ones that I've never found a good use for. Same thing for perspective, but I do like using distort and I do like using warp more often than not, and I'll show you which one's appropriate. For this one, let's just scale it down. So I've got scale. What I'm going to do is try to match up the top corner of each edge to this one. And if it's okay if it stretches just a little bit, I'm mainly trying to get one corner to match up for each corner here. There and right there. So corner, corner. If I go back up to the top, notice that even this corner is off by a little bit. The reason why is because my picture is off by just a little bit. If this is the case, if you still want it to be perfect, let's use the distort. So edit, oops, transform, and distort. The distort transformation will give you the ability to click on one edge and to move it around wherever you want it to go. So whatever perspective that it needs to be or whatever dimension or size, you can place it exactly right there on that corner. Even move that corner around. Here's another thing. I'm going to walk around. You're going to hear me say, click the checkbox, click the checkbox. At the very top, whenever you do a distortion, be sure to click the checkbox. You can also hit the return key, but you got to commit any type of transformation that you create. So now it's in place. Looks pretty good. I'm even going to bring back up my opacity so I can see the whole thing. But I'm not finished yet. Especially on this one, her hand was on top of here. So I want to kind of give it that realistic type look. I wanted to make sure her hand is still in front of there. And this is nothing new. Y'all know how to make a layer mask. So I've got layer 1 selected. I'll move this over so we can see both of them. Layer 1, turn on a layer mask, and all I've got to do is paint out that particular area. Let's see, make sure I'm painting with black. Swap it back over to white, and then paint in the rest of it. You could spend a lot of time making it look absolutely perfect, but that's pretty good right there. That's essentially what I'm looking at. This is what I would send to a client just to show them, hey, if you order this banner, if we put the artwork on here, this is what it will look like once it's finished. To save these, you're just going to save them as a JPEG, so we can go up to here, go down to flatten the artwork. That'll create everything in one layer, and then you can go to File and Save, and it's saved out. All good for that one. Any questions on that one? Simple as pie. So, if I was to do, say, this billboard. So here's my artwork, here's my billboard. Notice that it's going off in perspective, and I even have these rounded edges up here at the top. It would be as simple as, the first step is selecting it. I'm going to go kind of quick. Edit and cut. edit and paste. It's in its own layer now, so I can move it up here. I do have my transform controls turned on, so I already have my bounding box, so I can scale that if necessary. But to put it into perspective, I like to use distort. Oops. Transform, distort. And then all I've got to do is to line up my corners from one side to the other. Maybe need to make it, there we go. Be sure to hit your check at the top. Now all I need to do is to round off the corners. What's the best way of doing that? Layer mask. Layer mask. That way you can round it off. Then you save that as a JPEG. So those are the easy ones. Those are the ones that it's kind of straightforward as far as how to put those together. I won't even save that. Here's a more difficult one. This one needs to be on a curved surface. So we're going to take this flat and place it on a curved type area. Same thing, grab my rectangle, cut it, paste it. It's on its own layer now, so I can move it. I'll even scale it down. Zoom in so y'all can see. Since this is on a kind of a perspective, it's on a little bit of a difference. I'm going to do distort. Move each edge in there. Do try to make it look natural. So obviously that is not correct, right? Not the correct perspective to do. Obviously that is way too stretched out, right? So keep it in proportion, but I'm gonna let you eyeball the details for how it should look. Let's see. I'm gonna stop right there. So that's pretty good. Still looks very flat. Here's how to curve the edges or give it just a little bit of a bend to make it look like it's following the edge of the balloon. Under File, Transform, this is where the warp comes in. Warp will give you Bezier handles and kind of divide off in the grid. So if I clicked here in the center and drag it, you can see there's my Bezier. I can get the edges to curve just a little bit. And I'm actually looking at that little line. I know it's difficult to see to follow that edge. Same way on this side. Click and curve. If you wanted, you could curve the top a little bit. Oops, and the bottom edge a little bit as well. And so now it has that curved type feel. Remember to hit your checkbox. Same thing, flatten it, save it as a JPEG. You can move on to the next one. Any questions on the warp? All good? Looking fun? Let's do one that's really complicated. There's the van. That's okay. Where's my box? Yeah, here's one. Okay. So this one looks simple. I'll select this side. We'll cut it out. We'll paste it. We'll scale it. We'll even distort it. Remember, even a small box is in perspective, so that doesn't look right, but bringing up these edges does. Okay, so I've placed it on there. What's the problem though? Big old white space around it. How do we remove the white? Now there's several methods of doing it. I could use my selection tools, like my magic wand, and try to go in and click on it and select the white and delete it. Way too difficult. I'm going to show you the easy way of doing it. I've got my layer 1 selected, which is on there. Change your blending mode, and so this is that third part. Multiply from normal to multiply will get rid of your lighter colors, your white area. So if I want to get rid of the white under multiply, boom, automatically gone. The other ones, such as screen, will get rid of the darker areas. So now you can see the red is still a little bit showing, but the darker is gone. And overlay is your midtones, excuse me, which of course won't do very much for this one. So for this one, the appropriate one is multiply. Same way for the other side. If I took out fragile and put it on this side, I would need to get rid of the white that's behind it. Blending modes is another major thing you can do to put those together. Now let's try a really, really difficult one. That one's good, that one's good. Ah, here's a good one. If you need help on this one, you won't be the first person, so don't mind asking me on this. For this, check out what we have to do. So they've given me the logo, but I've got it as a picture, not as a vector. And I want it to be different colors. I want it to be white on this one, yellow on this one, and red on this one. But what they gave me was a blue one. So how do we go about changing the color of a picture once they've sent it? First thing we got to do, cut it and paste it. So select it, cut, paste. I could move it down. Let's place it right here on the pencil. I'm just going to eyeball it. I'll zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. Be sure to hit the check. So that looks good. That's there. How do I get rid of the white? Multiply. Okay, so that takes care of the white, but now I got to change it to red. Here's the best method for changing a color on Photoshop. We've already done this, and it has to do with the adjustments. We did this in Design 2. You've got your adjustment layers. Use the gradient map adjustment. When I click on it, it's going to add its own little layer right here. And remember, a gradient map will map out all of the dark pixels to be whatever your dark area to the lightest pixels. In this case, I'm using black to white. So to change it, I'm going to change my darker pixels. I know I'm covering up everything. Let's move these out of the way. I'm going to change this to red. Double click there. Double click on here. You can kind of see what's happening on this one. All good. Say OK. So whatever is red to white is now going from red to white here. What's the next problem that you see? I've got that red. Everything else is red. So how do I isolate just this layer and not make it affect any other one? Anybody want to give me a
Layer mask.
layer mask? No, close. Not just layer mask. What's the other type of mask? Clipping mask. Very good. Check out what we have. This is on one layer, and this is on another layer. If you remember, a clipping mask allows you to use two different layers to show the pixels. So whatever's on top is masked by what's on the bottom. So if I hold down my Option and click between, now that is only affecting this layer. As you can see, that's only affecting the mask that's on there. Pretty cool. So I can change it to whatever color I want as long as it's changed up right here. So if I need it to be another color like green or darker red, it'll also change up right there. All cool? So that handles the red. Let's see if we can do the yellow. Let's see. I'm trying to juggle my palettes here. Okay. I've already got that created. Let's make a copy of these. So I'm going to hold down Shift, select both of them, and if I drag these down to my new, I've got now a copy of both of those. Y'all see how I did that? Select two, drag it. Now all I've got to do is drag my copy of that one on top of here. Just to kind of recap, this is set to multiply, this is set to red. I need it to be yellow. So let's change that to yellow. We'll say OK. All right. Got a problem here. Why is it not showing up? Because it's set on multiply. All right. So what do I need to change it to so that I can see perhaps the lighter colors?
Screen.
Let's see what screen does. I can see the lighter colors, but what's the problem? The white shows through. Okay. I'm going to set this back to normal. Let you know you don't need to do it on normal. Instead, what I need to do is to get rid of the white area and just keep the yellow. Here's another handy trick that the pros know how to do. I'm going to double click on this open area, and this will bring up our layer styles. Y'all have seen this before. It's where you can add a drop shadow, you can add overlays, those types of things. Here's one thing you've probably not used very much. At the very top, I want the blending options. And in the very bottom of the blending options, there's these little sliders. This is your transparency controls for this layer, and specifically this top one is what we're going to look at. The layer, let's move this out of the way, I'm sorry, that we have selected is the logo, okay? So that's what this layer is. Here, trying to show you two things. And it's blending only if the white area is completely white. Can I break my chair? Can you break my chair? Okay. So I'm going to drag this over to the left. Watch what happens. Watch the white area. This is the magic trick. Click and drag, and eventually the white will disappear. It's reaching that white threshold. Now if I keep moving, of course, it'll eventually, the yellow will disappear too. Also notice, if I place it, come on, there we go. I place it right there, not very good quality, right? If I move it over, still not the best quality. I can kind of see some jagged edges. Here's how to get the best control out of it. Hold down your Option key and click on one of the sides of this. That will split it up. Here's what that's doing. That's giving you a range between those two. So click and drag, and now I can get even better controls over how that looks versus it being so tight. So that looks a whole lot better, right? All of that's done under the blending options up here at the top. Did I lose everybody? Okay, one last one. How do we get the white at the top? So we've got the yellow, we've got that one. Let's make another copy of this layer. Select both of them, drag it to here. So there's my new copy, and we'll place this one on top of here as well. Go away. This one needs to be white. This layer is set to normal. So I'm going to change my blending mode to, right now it's going from yellow to white. I want my black text to be white. Uh-oh. What problem do I have? It's just a big white box now. Both my foreground and background is white, correct? So how can I change it up? I still need to see my foreground and background. What would you change? If my foreground is white, what if I change my background? Let's make it black. Okay, so think about this. I've got, bingo, change your screen blending mode. On this one, we'll set it not to multiply, but to screen, and that'll get rid of the darker area, and now I've got the white that's left over. The reason I'm getting you to do this is I want you to think about how your blending modes work and how your adjustment levels, layers work with each other. You're changing colors, and you're also seeing how they interact with the other layers. All cool? Okay, so that one's the most difficult one. If you need help, I'll walk you through that one as well. One last one. Don't turn away just yet. One last one. Check out the shopping cart, or shopping bag. So I've got the front of this one. I've also got the side of it. So when you work on this one, you may want to just cut out, this is obviously the front, and this is obviously the side. You may have to make two selections, right? One for one side and one on the other. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just give me an idea of what it should look like. The soda can. I do want this entire design to go from the top of the can to the bottom of the can. And when you play around with your blending modes, you tell me which blending mode works best. Does a blending mode work best? This last one is going to be a tattoo. I'll give you this good looking guy, not really. And I'll also give you a vector file full of tattoos. So let me open this one up. Ha 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 ha.
Do we have to do like a lot?
You can do as many tattoos as you want. Just cover them up with tattoos.
Okay.
As long as you do the
Alright.
correctly.
You said it.
Here's the thing. I'm going to open this one in Illustrator. There we go. So now I've got a vector file and I've got a raster file, a Photoshop and an Illustrator file. Let's select one of these. I'll do this one. Go to Edit and Copy. And then jumping into Photoshop, we go to Edit and Paste. Now if you do this, remember Photoshop doesn't deal with vectors too well. It's going to ask you, how do you want to paste it? Smart Object will give you the ability to change it. Pixels will just make a layer, and we don't want to worry about paths or layer shapes. We want, in this case, I just want the pixels. Let's keep it simple. When I say OK, it'll ask me to scale it down. I can place it, do whatever I want, rotate it if necessary. Remember to hit your checkbox. Got it on there, then simply change your blending mode, and it will move in there as well. You can fill up his whole arm with tattoos, put it on his face, I don't care, as long as you're doing the correct technique to put it together. Pretty cool? Let's see if there was any other ones that we had to, there was one last one, the keychain. For this one, I want you to figure out, you've got to cut out this area, paste it on here. But when you do, you're going to be getting rid of the white background, but you need to be able to keep the white that's inside of the logo. I think y'all can figure out how to do that best. Keep the white inside, but get rid of the white around the outside. When you are finished, here's how I want you to turn it in. All of these are saved to a nice folder. Sometimes when you send a variety of images to a client, they want them all grouped together. It's difficult to do many attachments. Here's how to compress a folder if you didn't know how to do it already. Select your folder, hold down Control, and click, and then choose Compress, usually whatever the name of the folder is. Give it just a second, and this will make a zip file that you can upload to Moodle from there. All cool? Alrighty. Once you're finished, keep working on your posters.